My dear students of class 3, today I am going to take your value education class. So please take out your value education book in a circle and open at page 32, that is chapter 6. The name of the story is Thimmaka's Children. Thimmaka's Children. Please listen to the story carefully so that you can understand the moral values hidden in the story. Now let me tell you the story. Thimmaka was married at a very young age to Chikanna. Thimmaka was married at a very young age to Chikanna. So, who was married at a very young age? Yes, Thimmaka was married at a very young age. To whom? To Chikanna. Now, where did they live? Where did they live? They lived in Halikul village in Karnataka. They lived in Halikul village in Karnataka. A few years after marriage, the couple, means the husband and the wife, realized, means understood something. What did they realize? They realized that they could not have children. They could not have children. Now everybody loves to have children. So obviously they were very sad, very upset. But they didn't stop. The couple wanted to do something useful with their life. They wanted to do something that would be helpful for others, something that everyone would remember. At that time, people from their village had to often go to a nearby village called Kudur. So, what was the name of the nearby village? The name of the nearby village was Kudur. The name of the nearby village was Kudur. The distance between these two villages was about 3 kilometers. The distance between these two villages was about 3 kilometers. Nearly 50 years ago, the road between these two villages was dusty, dirty and dry. So, what was the condition of the road that connected the two villages? It was dusty, dirty and dry. It was quite difficult for people to travel between the two villages. There were no trees, no shade, and people had lots of difficulties in traveling between the two villages. So, what did Thimmaka and Chikanna decide? What did Thimmaka and Chikanna decide? They decided to do something very special for the benefit of the people. They decided to plant trees. They decided to plant trees. They thought that if the trees grew well, the shade would help the villagers later. It was no doubt a very good idea, but people mocked, means teased and laughed at them for this decision. They didn't get encouragement from the people around. But they did not pay any heed. They were determined to do what they had planned. They did not change their planning. No mockery or criticism could change their decision. No mockery or criticism could change their decision. So initially, what did they do? Initially means at first. Okay. So at first they raised young saplings in a nursery nearby. At first they raised young saplings in a nursery nearby. Now nursery is a place where young plants and trees are grown for sale or planting elsewhere. I repeat, nursery is a place where young plants and trees are grown for sale or planting elsewhere. Followed? Okay. Now what did they do next? What did they do next? Then they shifted these saplings carefully and planted them all along the road from their village to Kudur. They shifted these saplings carefully and planted them all along the road from their village to Kudur. Thimmaka would carry 2 pots, one on her head and another on her hip. Chikanna would carry 2 pots hanging on the ends of a pole, which he carried on his shoulder. Every day they had to water the plants, carrying 40 to 50 pots a day. So it was not an easy task at all. They did it not for themselves but for others. Every year they increased the number of plants by 15 to 20. Increased means made greater in amount or multiplied. Increased means made greater in amount or multiplied. Within a few years, they planted close to 300 trees. Within a few years, they planted close to how many trees? 300 trees. Years passed and the couple toiled away to not only water the plants but also protect them from the cattle that strayed there. So time went by and the couple toiled away means worked very hard to protect the plants from the cattle that strayed there. Stray means to move away aimlessly. They took care of the plants so well and considered the plants as their children. So they thought and cared for the plants as their children. Many years later, Chikanna died. So who died? Chikanna died after many years. But Thimmaka continued taking care of the trees. Thimmaka continued taking care of the trees. Now nearly 284 trees form a nice canopy and provide home to numerous birds that chirp cheerfully every day. Thanking whom? Thanking the couple for their tireless effort. What is a canopy used for? In biology, a canopy is the above ground portion of a plant community or crop formed by the collection of individual plant crowns. It provides shelter from the rain or sun. The trees are homes of many birds. At first, people mocked the couple for their idea of planting trees, but they did not give up. They deserve appreciation for their tireless effort. About 5 years after Chikanna's death, Thimmaka received many awards for their wonderful deed. Thimmaka received many awards for their wonderful deed. Now, why was it a wonderful deed? We all know the importance of planting and preserving trees. Save trees, save earth is a very common phrase. But the need to save the trees it is utmost now. It's a very important issue nowadays. From providing oxygen for breathing to maintaining ecological balance, from offering food and shelter to fighting pollution, trees do so much for us. Till today, Thimmaka does not fail to thank her husband for his encouragement, for inspiration, for motivation, without which the couple would not have started this noble journey of giving something back to the society. So Thimmaka's husband Chikanna was the man behind this great job done for the benefit of the people, the society and the world. So what are the values that you have learned from this story? What are the values that you have learned from the story? First of all, selflessness. The couple did not have any children. They have done something selflessly for the welfare of the people and the society. Yes. Yes. Next is hard work. They worked very hard to grow the trees along the highway. They had to carry pots and water the plants, carrying 40 to 50 pots of water every day. It was a huge task, but they never gave up. They had determination and self-belief. Many people criticized and discouraged their dream of growing trees for such a long stretch, but they didn't lose hope. They did not lose hope and carried on with their plan. Within a few years, they planted close to 300 trees. How many trees? 300 trees. Though their effort was recognized many years later, their thoughtful action will be remembered forever. They did something that benefited all the people of the village. Moreover, they showed social and civic responsibility and also respect for the environment. We all know that trees are the lifeline of the planet Earth. Trees are a rich source of food, fruits and vegetables. They also act as a source of wood, timber, rubber, paper, gum, fiber, etc. Many trees have medical properties like neem, oak, pine, etc. Trees also provide shade where people can rest. They provide oxygen, improve air quality, maintain climate, conserve water, preserve soil, and support wildlife. It is our duty to plant more and more trees like the couple did to save Mother Earth. So children, I hope you have learnt a lot from the story. Now I'd like to discuss questions and answers from the story. Number 1. Answer the following questions. Answer the following questions. Question 1. Why were Thimmaka and her husband initially sad? Why were Thimmaka and her husband initially sad? So what will be the answer? Thimmaka and her husband were initially sad because the couple realized that they could not have children. I repeat, Thimmaka and her husband were initially sad because the couple realized that they could not have children. Question 2. Why did Thimmaka and her husband decide to plant trees? Why did Thimmaka and her husband decide to plant trees? The answer is Thimmaka and her husband decided to plant trees because they thought that if the trees grew well, the shade would help the villagers later. Thimmaka and her husband decided to plant trees because they thought that if the trees grew well, the shade would help the villagers later. Question 3. How were Thimmaka and her husband rewarded in the end? How were Thimmaka and her husband rewarded in the end? The answer is about 5 years after Chikanna's death, Thimmaka received many awards for their wonderful deed. In this way, Thimmaka and her husband were rewarded in the end. I'd like to repeat. About 5 years after Chikanna's death, Thimmaka received many awards for their wonderful deed. In this way, Thimmaka and her husband were rewarded in the end. Next, answer the following questions briefly. Question 1. Where did Thimmaka and Chikanna live? Where did Thimmaka and Chikanna live? It's an easy one. Thimmaka and Chikanna lived in Halikul village in Karnataka. I repeat, Thimmaka and Chikanna lived in Halikul village in Karnataka. Question 2. Why was it difficult for people to travel between the two villages? Why was it difficult for people to travel between the two villages? You know the answer very well. It was difficult for people to travel between the two villages because the road between the two villages was dusty, dirty and dry. I'd like to repeat this answer. It was difficult for people to travel between the two villages because the road between the two villages was dusty, dirty and dry. Now question 3. What did Thimmaka and Chikanna decide? What did Thimmaka and Chikanna decide? The answer is Thimmaka and Chikanna decided to plant trees. Thimmaka and Chikanna decided to plant trees. Now let's move on to the objective type questions that you must do on your own. First one, answer the following in one word. Answer the following in one word. Number 1. They mocked Thimmaka and Chikanna for their decision. They mocked Thimmaka and Chikanna for their decision. Number 2. Thimmaka and Chikanna raised saplings in this place. Thimmaka and Chikanna raised saplings in this place. 3. Thimmaka and Chikanna considered them as their children. Thimmaka and Chikanna considered them as their children. Number 4. Thimmaka and Chikanna lived in this village. Thimmaka and Chikanna lived in this village. Next, write whether the following sentences are true or false. Write whether the following sentences are true or false. Number 1. Thimmaka and Chikanna had 3 children. Thimmaka and Chikanna had 3 children. Number 2. The couple planted close to 100 trees. The couple planted close to 100 trees. Number 3. The road between 2 villages was dusty, dirty and dry. The road between 2 villages was dusty, dirty and dry. Number 4. Thimmaka and Chikanna were rewarded in the end. Thimmaka and Chikanna were rewarded in the end. Now last one. Fill in the blanks. Fill in the blanks. Number 1. Dash was married at a very young age to Dash. Dash was married at a very young age to Dash. Number 2. Thimmaka and Chikanna decided to plant Dash. Thimmaka and Chikanna decided to plant Dash. Number 3. Thimmaka received many dash for their dash deed. Thimmaka received many dash for their dash deed. Number 4. The couple lived in dash village in dash. The couple lived in dash village in dash. So that's all children. Please do the exercises given. Take care. Thank you.